Hi everyone, good to have you here. We're gonna have a great conversation today, and I have no other person with me than PMTO, Mrs. O, PTO, OTO, and OTP. And we're gonna have a good conversation today. And we just wanna have a conversation around relationship, marriage, friendships, and the likes. I know that we've done this sometimes last year or early this year, where we had like a relationship kind of thing on YouTube, and I want to say it's back, but from based on popular demands and a lot of questions that we are getting and conversations we've been having, we thought to do this, YouTube live, where you can learn and unlearn and get different conversations about relationships. So we're gonna really have a good time. I have PMT here, I have Mrs. O here, I have baby, I have my Bolingua here, I have Kensington, yeah. So I dragged that week to this live, so you guys should give me a round of applause. Okay, I want us to talk about and today's will be focused on singles, mom singles. And I want us to talk about 10 red flags, that every single person, either guy or girl, should watch. And if you see some of these red flags, then you should pay attention to it. So let's do 10. Hopefully, with the time that we have, we can do 10. If we can do 10 today, we'll then take it up next time. So I don't know if you want to go first. What are the one? You take one, I'll take one, and then we'll just go like that. So over to you.
Okay, hello everyone. So for me, I think the first red flag would be maybe you should go first.
No, you go first.
You go first.
No, you go first.
You go first.
That's a red flag.
You go first.
No, you go first.
You go first.
No, if you say I should go first, the red flag. You go
first.
Okay, you guys are go first. Okay, I'll go first. And this is not according to like number one, number two. We just take it, is inability to want to address issues with you. I think that's a red flag. And when I mean inability to address issues, I'm speaking it in the context. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some people, guy or girl, who don't, want to address issues because of what he does and they just want to move on. But I'm talking about the fact that you've had issues, you've brought up things, and it constantly waters it down, throws it the way, and it doesn't want to address things that would ultimately impact the relationship or impact the marriage or impact the friendship. Then the continuation of that can be a major blow on your relationship, right? So the inability to want to talk about what is very important to you, or to always downplay what is important to you. As simple as that thing might look like, it can really be a red flag. In fact, sometimes it can be an indication that his heart is really not in the thing, or her heart is really not in the thing. Especially something that means so much to you. And sometimes what means so much to you might not necessarily mean so much to your partner. But when you've constantly said the fact that this thing means so much to me, and it constantly or she constantly downplays it, then I think that's a big thing you have to pay attention to. You either have a conversation with him to say, guy or girl, what's going on here? How come you're not talking about these things? And if he's willing not to still talk about it, then that could really be a big red flag right there. So number one, inability to want to talk about things that are very personal and dear to you that would ultimately impact the relationship. That could be a red flag. In fact, sometimes I even want to say that it could even be that the person's heart is no longer there and they can just be there just because they have to be there. So I think that's the first one I'll say. So you can go next now.
Okay, so I think a red flag is if he tries to beat you.
Okay.
That should be a red flag, right?
That's not even a red flag. That's a red banner. That's a red billboard.
I mean, and the reason why I say this is because I feel like a lot of women try to overlook this, especially if they have gotten like really deep into the relationship, right? So some women, so what they try to do is they try to excuse that, oh, it was a one-off,
Yeah.
but that's how it starts from, right? But that's where it starts from. So if he attempts to beat you, if she, because it's not only men, some women can also be physically abusive. So if you ever experience that, it's really a red flag. One of the things I realized
I even
also,
think that there are process to that beating. It doesn't start out sometimes by beating. Even sometimes the way it charges towards you or she
yeah.
charges towards you, like
But you know, some women may not see that because they be like, oh, it's just anger,
yeah.
right? Until it is like really spelled out in front of them. And even when it's been spelled out in front of them, they make excuses for it because they are caught in deep, or probably they've gone far where the relationship is concerned, or maybe some people are planning to get married.
Yeah.
And you know, because what would happen is by the time you guys are married, you become his punching bag or you become her punching bag, and you just keep on going through, and you don't want to get into a marriage and you're dealing with physical abuse and all of those things. So that's a major red flag that you should look out for.
Do you think verbal abuse is also a red flag?
Well, yeah, yes, it's also a. I mean, yes, I do not agree that if you're in a relationship, you should be verbally abusive with your spouse or with your, so, like for instance, for us, even when we're dating, we don't use some certain words, right? No matter how angry you are, I feel like, let me put your head inside water, or let me do something, that makes you very furious. It's not an opportunity for you to do that. And I think that one thing that a lot of people don't tend to look at in a relationship is self-control. It's something that people just, because you feel like, oh, I'm angry, then I should just be angry, right?
Yeah.
Yes, you can be angry, but there should be some form of self-control, in some whatever self-control in money, self-control in how you behave, self-control in the opposite sex, self-control in anything, anger, self-control in anything, right? If someone doesn't have self-control, it's a red flag. Like self-control in everything, right? So I think that brings to
that's number 3 then.
So that's number 3. So someone who has have self-control, because freedom is great, but because you're free doesn't mean you can just do anything you like, right? I can say, okay, I'm free to do anything, and all I'm doing is I'm taking sugar every day. But I know the repercussion of what taking sugar every day will do to my health, right? So it's the same thing in your relationship, right? You have to look out for that, right? Self-control is very, very key, right? A lot of people don't really look at it, but it's very important. So I think that's
in fact, let me just put it this way. There is really no freedom as well, the concept of freedom. The only difference is that you choose to know or accept who you believe or you choose to be enslaved by. That's what Apostle Paul was saying, that he, a born servant of Christ, a born slave of Christ, quote unquote, he chose who he chooses to be enslaved by, which is the laws of Christ, the spirit of life in Christ Jesus. And that's very powerful, because when someone doesn't have self-control, you are just, it's almost like you are free to do whatever you want to do. And it can show up in your finance, it can show up in your relationships, it can show up in any. So that's such a powerful indication that you have to pay attention to. Number 4 would be accountability. The inability of the partner to be accountable. I can't overemphasize this one. Who is she accountable to? Who is he accountable to? Who can you talk to? And look, as simple as this is, I think there is no marriage seminar people don't use this one. Don't say this particular accountability part. But guess what? I think it's even one that most people still fall prey of the most. As much as they keep hearing it. In fact, many people are actually nodding their head as I said that. But guess what? I realize that when people are blinded in that thing called love, it's like they just screw the box of some of the very obvious flags that you should pay attention to. And one of that is, the inability to be accountable to someone. There has to be somebody in your partner's life that that you can always talk to. You're not having that person because you want to talk to somebody that you want to report every time. But you just also know that, in the multitude of counsel, there is safety. And that's the powerful scripture that backs the fact that you must have somebody that, it must be in a multitude of counsel. The multitude of counsel doesn't necessarily mean thousands of people. It could even be just one person. But that sense of accountability, apart from I'm only accountable to God, I'm only accountable to my biological father, or whatever, that can be there. And from your conversation, you can pick it up to know, is this person accountable? And sometimes it's not what they say to you, it's what they present and what they do. Because most times you can say, even I know guys can do this sometimes, where you say, who are you accountable to? They'll mention one name for you. And the last time they spoke to that person was maybe 5 years ago or 10 years ago. The guy even putting his picture up on DP and they never even met this person. And in your mind, you're thinking, such an accountable person. But you might really want to know details to know, okay, how accountable, even from your conversation, you can pinpoint if he's an accountable person or she's an accountable person or not. So number 4 is accountability. Number 5.
Number 5, I'll say a red flag is if someone is not teachable.
Yeah.
So when I mean teachable means, of course, you know what it means to be teachable, like someone who is open to correction, someone who doesn't believe in their own ways of doing things, right? Lots of people fall prey of this, right? You don't want to get married to a person, or you don't want to be in a relationship with someone who doesn't see other perspective, right?
Yeah.
And always sees it, it's this way, and this is how it has to be done because this is how I think that it should be done. One thing I always say to married couples and people who are getting married, and that's for marital counseling, is that you both are coming from 2 different backgrounds, right? So how I will interpret information is different from the way he will interpret, situations and circumstances. So sometimes I might be correct, he might be wrong, but if he insists that this is the right way, I mean, it's going to be a problem, right? And this would affect you in different areas of your life, in your marriage, in money making, in even making critical decisions about your marriage or about your life, right? So you need somebody who is very teachable, someone who can be corrected. And let me give you guys a very good example. I'm going to put myself on the spot, right? So sometimes my husband, when he's pronouncing some words, I'll say, babe, that's not how to pronounce it. It's this way to pronounce it, right? At first, it was like, oh, leave me alone. But I think later I realized that, okay, maybe I was actually right. And then, he just was open to it. And I love the fact that he's always open to it, even when I say that, okay, babe, this is the pronunciation. Same with me as well. There's so many things that he has had to correct me that at first I was like, oh no, because this is how I feel like it should be. But after so long, I realized that okay, I'm actually wrong, and you don't want to get married to someone who just doesn't want to hear your own opinion, hear your own feedback. You will just be stuck. You'll be stuck. And we've had series of marriages or people who have entered into relationships or marriages who feel like, oh, they are stuck because their partner is unwilling to change, or their partner isn't flexible, or they're just not teachable and they're just stuck in their ways. You don't want to be in that kind of relationship. So when you see someone who you've tried, to see perspective, change perspective, when it comes to issues, or maybe in a relationship or whatever, in just normal conversations, right? Because all these things you can deduce them from conversations, right? So when you find that it's something that you need to put a red flag on it and be like, okay, this is a red flag, let me put it there. Let's see how it goes. But if it continues to occur, you might need to just take a chill pill and just wait it out. So,
Great. Number 6 would be isolation. And what I mean by that is a guy or a girl that completely takes you off, your friends and your guys or your G's and just says, oh, I want you to myself. He completely cuts you off, or she completely cuts you off from all your relevant relationships that you've known, especially if they were a good relationship. Now, it's understandable if it was like, maybe you, for example, maybe the guy or the girl was a very bad girl and, clubs and all those bad things, and then the guy comes to your life and then he takes you away from those kinds of friendship. I mean, that's understandable, but it's like, you had good people in your life before. Yes, you had probably things, but then this guy comes from nowhere, or this girl comes from nowhere, and then completely isolates you from the relationship. I always find it also a big red flag. In fact, let me say this here. Usually when people come to me and say, PS, I want to get married to this person, I like this person, one of the things I always ask first is, what do your friends think about him? Because I realize this over and again that there are many things your friends are not blinded in love. They don't have the emotional attachment to anything. Yeah. From their perspective, they can see what you can see. And many times, this happens to everybody. The things you think you can see when you are inside something is very myopic, it's very small as to the many things that is going on from what you can't even really see. And so I always ask their friends, what does your friend think about it? And so if you have a relationship like that where, the girl or the guy is very big on, me and you, and that sense of, there's something that our own is different, that when you start hearing those kind of things, those are very big red flags. And your relationships that you have with your partner should not completely deter you away from relevant relationships or association that God has brought to your life or God has brought to your way, or friendship that God has even brought to you. That's a very, very big red flag, and you want to pay attention to that. All right. Number 7.
Okay, number 7, I would say that another red flag you can look out for is someone who isn't supportive and who makes you feel less of who you are. Sometimes I feel like this happens when maybe someone likes someone who they feel like they are out of their league. Right? You feel like, oh, this person is just too good to be true, or this person is of a social class, or a person so intelligent, right? And you're just there's just something you feel about the person. Maybe you guys are just really talking, right? And and this, I really want to understand this because I've been in that shoes, and so I understand what it is. And at first it doesn't come off like that. It's more, oh, this person is better than me, this person has this more than me, and all of those things. And it's always been slipped into conversations, or when you do stuff, you want to get married to someone who is supportive of you. Even if you have issues, because we all have weaknesses, they shouldn't put it at the center, or they shouldn't magnify because of their ego, or make them so that it makes them look more elevated, in whatever.
And that's what's going to be used as a control.
Exactly, a control, So, and that's why some women will endure some things, because they feel like, that partner will be like, if you go anywhere else, nobody's going to value you as much as I would. So it's like a trap. So it kind of just keeps you in that trap. And you're like, okay, I mean, if this person is saying, if this person, who has more social class than me, who's more intelligent than me, can say this, where would I get this kind of, relationship with someone that will give me so much attention and all of that? So you don't want to do that for yourself as a lady, as a man. You want to get married to someone who will be supportive of you, and if at all you have any weaknesses, they're going to walk you through it or help you through it, and you guys work together, not make you feel less of who you are. You don't want that. You do not want that. And I'm speaking especially for women, because it happens for women who haven't actually had a good sense of identity, right? Because they are easy prey, they are easy targets. So when a guy or when a girl, falls into that kind of thing, she's like, oh my God, just don't, just be, shine your eyes. That's what I'll say. Shine your eyes. Get married to someone, or look out for someone who has your best interest at heart. I mean, there are so many things that I wasn't able to do when myself and my husband, were dating, and I'm sure he knew those things, but he never rubbed it off in my face, right? He never made me feel like, oh, I have not attained this level of understanding or this stature and all of that. But I mean, so many times he would encourage me, oh, you have to pursue your dreams, even when I felt inadequate, in my abilities. And even though he knew that, oh, you actually have what it takes to do this, either male or female. It's not just for women, it happens as well for men, but it's just a very, very minority. So that's what
can you now give my flowers? Thank you. Okay. Number 8. It's been so good so far. Number 8 is emotional instability. Look, that's so powerful, and there's no other words. That's a big red flag.
I don't have any more points to say.
It's such a very critical. Look, if you have someone who is spiritually stable, financially stable, but emotionally unstable, it's going to break every other thing. It's like having and these two parties, either guy or girl, sometimes fall prey of that. Today is on the high, tomorrow is on the low, tomorrow is like this, tomorrow is she's like this, tomorrow is like that. That's a big red flag, because in your relationship or in your marriage, there are going to be many seasons that have been, be unwavering seasons that you cannot even predict. And if you have a very unstable, emotional partner, you are going to be having to deal with a lot. It's like you're going to be having emotions for two, dealing with your own and dealing with his own or her own at the same time. And it's not just worth it. Emotional quotient is as good, almost in the same bandwidth as intelligent quotient. I know there are many ladies who say, well, one of the things I get fascinated by is his IQ. He's very intelligent. I love sapiosexual guys, things like that, or girls, and that's great. But I bet you should love someone who is emotionally stable, and you have to look out for those things. You can find it in conversation. You can find it even while you were dating, the on and off. The way he uses words is emotional dependency on your validation, or his validation, our validation, whatever. Those things are very, very important. So emotional instability is a big red flag in relationship. Number 9.
Okay. And number 9 would be someone who wants to be with you because of what you have. Either monetary values, either status, whatever it is that they can get from you,
or what they can even see of you,
or the future that they can see. Well, of course, everyone desires, right? Yes. But there's something about from a selfish point of view, right? And it goes both ways, right? I think someone was telling me that at the time she said one of the things that she noticed is sometimes, or she was in a talking stage relationship or something, and she realized that she was always doing a lot of things for the guy, and it was only when the guy needed something that that there was just a way that he was always manipulating, and he would try to get stuff from her and all of those things, right? You want to be careful of that, because at the end of the day, when there's really nothing coming from you again, the person's just going to leave you and go. So it's not really that the person really cares for you genuinely, right? It's not really that. But that doesn't also mean that, because sometimes it also happens that some women are, more financially independent. So it doesn't necessarily mean that, because you're financially independent and maybe more than your partner means that maybe he's coming after your money. Well, you can always know when someone is after what you know. And it's not as, honestly, sometimes it's not as visible, but you just pay attention.
Yeah.
Please. One of the things that I feel like a lot of young people who are in relationships do not do is they don't pay attention to body language, things that are left unsaid, things that, signs. They don't pay attention. You need to pay attention to it. And it's one of the feedback I get from people when they do premarital counseling, and maybe I ask questions or we use scenario-based questions, and they're like, oh, one of the things that they've realized is there's some things that they've actually not really thought about, or they've not knew, or they haven't put into consideration, before thinking about marriage. Because marriage is a whole lot more than just the gooey feeling that you feel. And sometimes because you're in that feeling, like my husband, like PS said, because you're in that situation, you may not necessarily see clearly, because you just want to be in that flow of, we're in love, we are dating for this year, go out on date nights and all of those things. But please pay attention. Most of the things that we find that people get into when they're into marriage, they actually happy. They just did not. I mean, there are so many things that now that myself and my husband are married that I saw before we got married. It wasn't like my eyes were completely blind to it, right? But there were things that probably I feel like, okay, I can deal with. Same as me as well, right? Nobody's perfect, right? But there are some things that they are automatic red flag, and you cannot make excuses for because of where you are going to, right? So I would say that's a red flag, so you should pay attention to it.
Yeah, the last one I was going to say is inconsistency of his words or her words, and that also speaks to like lying lips. I see. Yeah, that happens a lot. In relationships where you have two partners that they built the relationship basically on lies. They started lying to each other. My father wants this one, my daddy is this one, my dad. Like, they just start, the consistency of his words or her words, those are very big deal. Because you see, what then going to happen is that it's going to break trust. And once trust is broken, you start paying attention to everything that you shouldn't be paying attention to.
Even though there's nothing there. So that's a very, 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 very big deal and something that you want to pay attention to. Okay. I have one bonus.
All right, please give it to them.
Another bonus is you need to look out for if there's a red flag if your partner doesn't align with your values and where you are going to.
Yeah.
A lot of people, please, I beg, don't let me say a lot of people, please. If you are in a relationship, you are in talking stage, like they always say it now, right? And you feel like you guys are not going to the same direction, please just cut it off and just go your own way.
Yeah.
Because what will happen is you now start settling because you want to get married, because you're 30 years old, because you're 35 years old, you want to settle and you want to, please. If you're not going, because you can't be going to UK and then you're going to Kenya. That's not the same route you're going to take, right? So if you're not going the same direction, you don't value the same core values, or there's just some things that are not just important to
even
the
your
person.
faith, you don't believe the same
even your
thing.
faith, right? You don't believe that, we serve, we believe in God as a believer, right? Or there's just some things, foundational things that are very crucial, and you don't believe in the same things. Please, we don't want you to get into a relationship where you have to, there's a whole lot more to deal with, right? When you're in marriage. I'm not saying that there are bad things, right? But that there's those things for you to deal with. So we don't want you to get, miss this, because it will not be part of the other things, and it's a foundational thing. And if the foundation is destroyed,
what can the righteous do?
So please, I'm begging you, please pay attention to that.
Awesome.
That's all the things we've said so far.
Guys, it was good having you guys today. We've had a good time, and we told you 10 things, plus one now bonus. 11 things to look out for, that are red flags when you want to date your partner. I hope you can remember those 11 things and take them to heart. In the new, we believe in having quality and beautiful marriages that glorifies God. And that's why we're doing what we're doing. Until next time we see you guys, God bless you and have a very, very, very good week. Do you have any words?
If you have any questions, you can send us an email. It's behaving@wearethenew.org. Please, any question whatsoever that you have, please just send us an email.
Please always feel free to send questions.
Behaving@wearethenew.org.
All right. God bless you guys. Adios and peace.